Who will benefit from the TPP? American workers, consumers, small businesses, taxpayers, or the biggest multinational corporations in the world? Giving foreign corporations special rights to challenge our laws outside of our legal system is a bad deal. So long as TPP includes investor-state dispute settlement, the only winners will be international corporations.
Now, we alluded moments ago with Michael Steele the chance that the Democrats themselves are about to be locked into what could be a disastrous infight for them, this one over this massive trade deal. So let's look into this and explore if we're at that point where the GOP could take advantage, and if they don't, they're missing a really wide open chance. Let's welcome in veteran economist, professor of business at the University of Maryland, and national columnist Peter Morici, joined by our legal mind, the managing partner at DCBA Law Policy in the nation's capital, Michael Barnes. Gentlemen, I thank you both for joining us. And Peter, I'm going to begin with you because here we have news that came out earlier today that a group of pro-trade Senate Democrats said they will vote against the fast-track trade measure. We've all been talking about this for weeks now, which blocks this bill from being debated by the Senate. Okay, Peter, let's put this in some common language here. Why is this critical for the American consumer, the American public, and is this something the GOP could use to their advantage?
Well, first of all, Liz Warren's statements are absolute demagoguery, and it's refreshing to see it aimed at Barack Obama as opposed to him dishing it out to Republicans. It is something the GOP could use. This agreement could be of great benefit to the American people, but it has to be adequately structured. Instead, we're watching the Democrats raise all kinds of issues that don't exist, that are absolute fantasies. And so if the Republicans would embrace some of the issues, like, for example, currency manipulation, the trade laws and so forth that really do affect American workers and articulate a good case, then they could make some hay. But I'm afraid the Tea Party won't let them do that.
See, now that's a very good point, too, because the Tea Party has been in the way of many things, or at least as far as members of the staunch Republican Guard will talk to us about it. Michael, let's look at it from your perspective here. The GOP needs to take advantage of everything right now, and they need to get rid of this perception, true or not, that they're just infighting 24/7. So should they be looking at things like this, and should they be using this and try to explore that rift and just open it up as much as they possibly can?
Should be, if that's their goal, yes, of course, but they're not capable of doing that. The Democrats have been fighting over these issues for years. I mean, this is basically the union wing of the Democratic Party versus the more mainstream pro-trade side of the party, and the Republicans could unite and try to push this bill through in a way that benefits their core constituencies, but they're not capable of doing that because they've got their own infighting between the far right, typically those who have co-opted the Tea Party, and then the more mainstream business-oriented conservatives. So they're not capable of taking advantage of this situation at this point.
Let's look at some of the issues, or at least one person involved in the GOP right now that's getting a lot of news, and that is Jeb Bush. He basically indicates that George W. Bush is the person that he turns to for foreign policy advising here, and then he makes what could be considered a verbal misstep on saying that, yes, he would go into Iraq again. Michael, is this just the kind of thing here that the American people don't want to see? They don't want to hear the Bush administration again. They want to hear something new, and Jeb Bush could be torpedoing his chances right here and right now.
Yes, in so many ways, Jeb Bush is blowing it. We're so over, all things related to what he's talking about, not just with the Iraq War, not just looking at old school advisors on foreign policy, but also his social policies. He's making bad use of every opportunity that he has to distinguish himself from his brother, from the typical positions of the Republican Party. He tried to do things differently in Florida, but he's not demonstrating that through his words by any means now as he's considering running for president.
Peter, he's not a stupid man. I mean, Jeb Bush is a very smart man. So wouldn't somebody have gotten to him beforehand and said, look, if you're going to run for president, here's some things that you don't do that would not be a good idea. And this would seem to be two of them right out front.
Well, whether we got Bush or Hillary Clinton, we would be getting essentially a hawk on defense and someone likely to intervene in the Middle East. I mean, the dirty secret in all of this is that we're likely to be drawn into the Middle East again because of ISIS. And we're likely to be drawn into that part of the world again because of Russia's expansionary designs. The difference here between artillery Hillary and step on his tongue Bush is that Bush is basically giving Hillary a free pass on this now. The attention is on him, and now it remains to be seen whether somebody like Rubio can articulate a meaningful foreign policy position that Americans can embrace, but leaves him enough wiggle room to do the things an American president is going to have to do the next 8 to 10 years And those include doing something to finally stabilize the Middle East. As much as, the progressive detractors might not like that, American troops are going to be going abroad again, and to do something in the naval arena with regard to China. Those are big issues that are going to have to be addressed, and Bush is giving Clinton a free pass.
I got about 60 seconds. Let's address this issue. Drone strikes overnight kill 4 al-Qaeda leaders. Peter, does the American public need to just embrace the use of drones? They're getting results. And I hate to say this, even though sometimes there is collateral damage, we're killing the enemy.
There is always collateral damage. And the nature of ISIS's tactics and the nature of the communities that choose to shield them, is such that we are going to have to accept that there's going to be some collateral damage. It's distasteful, but that's war.
That is the 2 words that people always drop on here. 30 seconds to you then, Michael. When we talk about it, are you comfortable with that, saying that it is indeed just war?
Well, we have to remember who's causing this damage. The innocent lives are lost because there is terrorism in the world. And so we have to determine which innocent lives those are going to be. And the U.S. government has an obligation to defend its Constitution and those living under the Constitution. So if you have to recognize that someone's going to be the damage here, it would be preferable for it not to be the Americans, whether it be our service members or people here on our homeland. So given the choice, I think they're doing as best they can.
And many times let's not forget that these terrorists put themselves right in the middle of populated areas, and that makes it even more difficult to get to them. They're smart that way, too. Michael Barnes, Peter Morici, always a pleasure, gentlemen. I thank you both for joining us. We'll do it again soon.
Take care.
All right, take care. You got to kill the enemy one way or another. That's what you have to do in war. The fastest 60 minutes in news continues.